And welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly mini-sode where we dig into the things that we've been watching recently. I'm Terry.
And I am Mary Beth, and this week we're talking Your Friend to the End 2.0, a COVID slasher, space politics, the final season of a terrific show, and Lexi is irredeemable, change our minds. I can't wait to talk about that bitch. I know she's a child, but...
Should be tried as an adult.
Look... I'm not saying it, but I'm saying it. Anywho, but before we get there, I know that we watched a couple of the same movies this week because Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, there's so much coming out in January. Remember when January was for bad movies and now every goddamn movie known to man is coming out this month?
Seriously, a little sausage making, folks, but like trying to Tetris in all of the, like, okay, this sounds like a humble brag, but trying to Tetris in all of the guests because they all have movies that came out literally within days of each other this month is headache inducing because there's so much movies come out. I can't even speak.
So much movies come out.
I can't even speak correctly.
It's so true, and I know it's like sounds silly for us to complain because it's like it is a good problem to have.
It is.
It feels like, oh my god, there are so many movies to promote, and we want to make sure like we're giving everyone the love that they deserve. So get ready for some awesome content this month.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. But yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
But two movies came out, or either they've come out with by the publication of this. Both have come out. But the first one, Your Friend to the End 2.0, queer icon,
dance icon, friend to the end icon. I mean, she literally wants to be your friend to the end, unlike CHUCKY, who says he does, but then doesn't. She, to the detriment of society, wants to be this little girl's friend to the end. Boy, Megan, what did you think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I think Akela Cooper and James Wan, because they work together on a lot of this stuff, but I think that she really is tuned in to what they're both tuned into, like what people want in horror, and they're not afraid to make fun, entertaining horror. I think there's a lot going on in here that you can talk about with like a relationship to technology and like parenting and stuff, but first and foremost, this is meant to be like a fun, wild ass experience. And I think we talked about this a little bit on our best of 2022 episode about like the pendulum swinging again with horror. And I think Megan is like the first kind of, again, like the first of this year, because it was one of the first movies to come out this year, to show like, yeah, we are still swinging towards like people wanting entertaining horror movies. I mean, like, I'm not a box office nerd, but the box office numbers were incredible. The movie was made for like a pretty low budget for what it was, and it made
overperformed.
And like, I think that is showing how much people want to go to see horror and how like a marketing campaign like this works. But I'm like going away from what I was like me liking it. I had so much fun. I was laughing. I was gasping. She sings Sia as a lullaby. I almost fucking lost my mind. She plays Eminem's Toy Soldiers on the piano. Like, it's just... When she walks into the house with the sunglasses, I almost, like... I thought my, like, brain was gonna explode. I'm like, I knew that was gonna happen, like, obviously in the trailer, but just, like, the context of it happening, it's just, like... I'm so glad that this movie is happening and it's in front of me on screen.
My only complaint, and I typically don't have this complaint about PG-13 movies, but I do have a complaint of when a movie was supposed to be and then got toned down a bit. I do think I completely understand why it was PG-13, especially after the dance went viral. A lot of young people picked it up and started loving it. Understand. I am really excited to see if there is an unrated cut or an R-rated cut or whatever they're going to release. I'm excited to see what that adds to it because I do felt that it lacked a little punchiness in terms of the violence.
There's one moment that I really liked that involves like a car and the doll. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was one of like the first big kills. And I think it starts off strong, but then when you get to kind of like the climactic parts, and things that they showed in the trailer that I feel like were too much.
The
but
trailer shows too much too.
It does, like, and I think that's
every kill.
Yeah, and that's the problem. So it's, and like, I feel like they started off really strong, but they didn't really do a payoff. And again, I understand it's PG-13. They did a lot for a PG-13 horror film, but like, it didn't have as much of like a horror impact as more of a kind of like darkly funny satire to me than anything else, which I don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
I still
either.
had so much fun with it, but I think, and from what it sounds like the intention was to have a bloodier cut, but in terms of marketing, and again, like, it is smart. They probably made even more money because of that. Like, there were kids in my screening. I saw it on a Sunday night. There were kids. I sat next to a kid. She had a blast. It was awesome. She was covering her eyes. She was laughing. I was like, hell yeah.
That's good.
Incredible. Yeah. There were a lot of teenagers, which is like, I did not miss teenagers in a movie theater, but at the same time, I was like, well, they're not that bad, and they're having fun, and I love that they're having fun at a horror movie. So like,
yeah, I like you kind of said off the top, Akilah Cooper is just, I think she is the one to watch. Her so far between Malignant and this.
She's doing The Nun 2. I can't wait to fucking see what she has with The Nun 2. Like, I never thought I'd be that excited for The Nun 2, but fuck. Between her and Bonnie Aarons, I'm like, all right, I'm all in. Why not?
I do think the problem with the first Nun was that it didn't lean into the camp as much until like the very end, and then it felt like a little too late. Because we have, is it Thaisa Farmiga?
Yeah, Thaisa Farmiga as our nun.
Spitting the blood of Christ into a demon's face, like,
oh god, it's so
beautiful.
Good. It's iconic.
But that was about like it. It's like I wanted more of that energy throughout, and I feel like that is kind of the energy that Akilah will bring to it.
I know. I'm super stoked for that. So, that's this year, right?
Yeah. And listeners, if you haven't listened to our episode with Akilah from last year, you should go do that. We talk about Pumpkinhead, and it's a great episode.
It's really good. She's like the nicest person.
I love her. I want her to do well and succeed because she was so nice.
But yeah, Megan is fun. I like, look, it's not like, I'm sorry, I'm already saying this. It's not going to crack a top movies of the year for me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm already thinking that way, but there's so much coming out this year. And I think it has, like, it's really important in terms of cultural impact for fucking sure. It's just like, it's not, and I don't think it wants to be that. I think it wants to have a cultural impact, and I'll remember this movie all the time. So, like, it accomplished its goal, and I love that for all of them. And watch Housebound. The director of Megan directed Housebound. So, if you haven't seen that movie, it's fucking incredible. It's so fun.
I rewatched it this weekend, and I was going to talk about it. We had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I knew you. I wanted to bring it up because I knew you had watched it. So I just wanted a little watch that movie because it's so good.
You've seen it?
Yes, Steve and I watched it a long time ago. We were like, "Oh, this looks fun," and I was like, "Wait, this movie's fucking incredible."
It is.
And not enough people talk about it.
No, and it's a lot of fun. I think he's a really good director. I think he handles both materials incredibly well. But Housebound is a blast. It's totally
a huge blast. Yeah, if you're looking for something like it's fun, it's funny, it's creepy. So definitely check that out. But yeah, Megan.
Yeah.
Do it.
Continuing with this though, the other thing that we both have seen that is out as of the drop of this episode is the COVID slasher. What did you think about Kevin Williamson, his return to slashers with Sick, Mary Beth?
Oh, I really liked it.
Yeah?
Like, I had heard a lot of really good things about it out of TIFF. I didn't see it, but I know that a lot of people like really enjoyed it. And that the COVID stuff was used really well. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, a COVID slasher by Kevin Williamson. Like, sign me up, man. Like, so cool. And I think, I don't want to give anything away. It's brutal. It's got some good fucking moments in it. And I think they used the COVID backdrop in a really clever way. But again, being careful with what we say. Just like, it is a good fucking Kevin Williamson slasher. incredible, some of the best moments. Like, again, it's early in the year, but some like incredible moments that I think are gonna really stick in people's brains for this year. I'm sad it's just getting dropped on Peacock, like rather unceremoniously.
I'd much rather see this in a movie theater. I would. That was my takeaway.
It would be so much more fun in a theater with people, because like I
Yeah.
watched it at home, obviously, like on my iPad, and I really enjoyed it. There's some of the kill sequences, or like not even kill, like chase sequences, are really incredible. I think it's a really cinematic movie, especially because there's only there's three characters for most of the movie, and you know with slashers there's typically higher body counts, but like I think in limiting the body counts, I think it ramps up tension in a really interesting way, and I liked how they kind of worked around isolated single location with a small group of people in a really clever way that doesn't ever feel boring.
Yeah, well, I credit a lot of this film's success, honestly, to the director John Hyams, who directed
Yeah.
Alone from 2020, which was one of my favorite movies from that year. He has a knack for capturing tension, and the opening cold open, the cold open kill,
It's so good.
a portion of it is filmed in a long take, pretty much, and it's brutal. It's very kinetic. I would say that this movie, for a movie that is set mostly in one location, is very kinetic. There's a lot of changes. He uses the environment incredibly well, from the outside of the house to the inside of the house. Like this, no place is left unturned in this film, and he brings such an energy to it that I think it makes me sad that I'm not seeing this in a movie theater with a bunch of people. Like that is what when I was done, I was like really sad that I was watching this downstairs in my basement, watching it on a TV, which was nice, but like I was like, I really wish I was seeing this in a movie theater, because John Hyams, he can direct the shit out of it, and it just, I had a blast. I think it kind of falls apart a little bit with some of the reveals, but I don't know.
Oh man, I loved it. I thought it was wild. I was like, all right, that's fucking cool. Again, we won't spoil it, but some of the reveals are like, oh wow. So it's really good. I mean, like on one hand, I'm glad more people can see it on Peacock, but I also think like this just deserves a bigger release. I think it is really well done. COVID slasher. I think it does a lot of really cool stuff. I think it swings for the fences in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And I love how ballsy it is, and how it tackles COVID stuff and how it uses this stuff. And I think it's just, and there's some like incredible kill sequences. Like it's a good one. One of the final shots is fucking incredible. Reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was
it's
sick.
good.
It's sick. Sorry. I made that joke in my head earlier and I had to say it out loud so I never say it again. But I want to hear about the final season of A Terrific Show. I know what this is and I'm so excited to hear about it. A show that I still need to watch. I'm sorry. You and Joe will bully me one day into doing
Gosh,
it.
darn it. Servant, the first episode of the final season, is dropping today as of this episode's release. It is out. It is starting with a bang. I'm not going to... I don't... When we're 4 seasons deep, I just want people to go watch this show and not...
Yeah.
I can't spoil it. But I will say that this episode, or this season, opens with an episode that is basically a 25-minute extended cat and mouse like fight or flight moment where the main character is alone and there are some really apocalyptic shots of people just like standing suddenly outside of a car staring at her, kind of zombie imagery, but also like end of world imagery going on here. She's hiding in a car that uses a lot of this car thing where like the camera is zooming inside and out. The people are trying to get into the car. She is trying to escape. Like it is a 25-minute chase sequence that is just a perfect start to this final season. I've seen the first 3 episodes, and the 3rd episode is a little meh. I'm going to be perfectly honest, but those first 2 are incredibly good, and I am so excited to see where this is finally going to conclude with, because this is apocalyptic. It is family drama. It's a lot. There's a lot going on here.
I won't lie to you. I still don't fully understand what Servant's about, but I think that's the point. It sounds like a movie not a movie. I've watched the first half of the first season. I really liked it. It was just like, unfortunately, like a victim of my poor attention span. That, not to speak to the quality at all. And like, I kind of like, obviously I was like, all right, cool. It sounds like it goes absolutely fucking apeshit. And I'm so excited to finally watch it. Cause I'm like, how did they cover 4 seasons of content with what I thought this was? And I've purposely avoided so much because I really want to watch it. So like, I don't look at anything. I avoid as much as possible. So I don't know anything about what the fuck is happening. And I love that, and I'm very excited to experience whatever is being delivered.
And 90% of the show takes place in this one location.
The house?
Like,
the
we
house?
Yeah.
The apartment? Or not the apartment, that's like the giant house.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
like, and each season adds a new area to the house. Like,
that's like
in terms of like...
shit.
So like... It starts out and it's very claustrophobic, and then by the second season, we're up in the attic. In the third season, we're sort of broaching outside of the house a little bit and inside the walls a little bit. And this one opens up a whole other location that didn't know was part of the house. And there is, without spoiling anything, there is a character in here who is played by the old woman in Honeydew.
Oh, fuck. Honeydew. Oh my god,
Barbara Kingsley. She is playing a character that shows up in this, and she's having a lot of fun in the 2 episodes that I've seen her in.
Oh man, I want to rewatch Honeydew now. That movie rules.
The movie does rule. But yeah, it's really good. I think it's going to be an exciting conclusion, and I cannot wait to see where it's going to go. If you have not watched it, please. And if you are watching it, follow along with Joe Lipset and I. We are recapping each episode, and the first one will be up. So,
are you guys doing the written ones that you usually do, or are you doing audio?
Nope, written ones.
Hell yeah.
We've written so many pages. I think we've written basically a book on this show so far. Yeah, so that's Servant. What about space politics?
So I finished Andor, finally. I know, I'm like very behind.
I haven't watched it
finished. I love I grew up watching Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I've always loved Star Wars. I have been very burnt out from Star Wars. I have not been, like, I don't watch The Mandalorian. I don't watch a lot of, like, the spin-off stuff. Just because at this point, there's so much content. So when I heard about Andor, which is the prequel series to, hold on, how do I explain this? Okay, a prequel series about Cassian Andor, who is a main character in the film Rogue One, which is a prequel to A New Hope.
Yep.
Not A New Hope. Is it A New Hope? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always get the original 3 mixed up. I'm sorry, everybody. I just watched them all the time when I was little. But yeah, so it's a prequel to New Hope. So this is a prequel to a prequel, which is about Cassian Andor and how he became a rebel spy, basically. And I fucking loved it because it's not like epic space battles, Jedi battles. It's not like this big, like, it's not about like these Jedi and Sith and good and evil. Like, it's good and evil, but what I love about this one is it's what I love when you take a big world like this and put a very personal story, or not personal, but like a very specific story. Like, because this is not just about the world of Star Wars. It's about the price you pay for rebellion and what it means to be a rebel and the sacrifices you have to make. It tackles corporate espionage. It tackles the Empire has their own FBI, so there's like fucking fascist FBI agents investigating stuff. Like,
wow.
It's all about like backstabbing in workplaces, and it's like, it is just, and there's like, it's about, and then it also like critiques the prison industrial complex and incarceration and colonialism. Like, it's so smart.
Wow.
I was so surprised. And, like, you know, there are a lot of really cool fight. Like, there's a couple really awesome set pieces that are obviously about the rebellion, but they're not, they're like it's like Rogue One, scrappy missions, basically, done by people who don't have space wizard powers. They're just people trying to live in this fucked up world that's governed by fascism, like space fascism. And it's incredible. I was like, okay, well, Star Wars is pretty cool. So
yeah,
I would recommend it to anyone who's interested. Like, especially if you like Star Wars, but you're like, I'm not sure. Like, this is a series to watch to kind of like see a different side of that world that we've had in our lives forever.
Yeah, so I keep hearing that this show is really good, but like, I'll be honest, whenever I hear that, it goes in one ear and out the other because I've not really been a huge fan of the Disney Plus shows that they've been making.
Yeah.
Around Marvel and Star Wars. It hasn't really been my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But what you just said, like, made me really want to start watching it this weekend because that sounds really cool and more intelligent than I was expecting. Sorry.
It is. And that's, again, like, I was super resistant for a while because I was like, ugh. But then people were like reviewing it and saying things like, this is like why rebellions happen, and like the people who you see, like, the background of the Jedi battles and stuff, like, this is like their lives. Mm-hmm. It's like smaller characters and scare quotes, but doing like incredible things without being like having this like magical powers. So yeah, I absolutely adored it. So check it out on Disney Plus. We definitely started paying. I used to share an account with my family. They keep changing the password. I can't handle it, so we wanted to watch Andor so bad that now we're paying for Disney Plus so we could watch Andor. So, a worthy investment. But yeah. But speaking of shows, we did a lot of TV today. We have started the Chucky television series as part of our Chucky series. Finally watching it. I'm so dumb for waiting so long to watch this show.
Isn't it good?
Show fucking rules. Why is Don Mancini so good at, like, capturing cultural zeitgeist? Because, like, you have the pocket in, like, the early 90s, and you have the pocket of films in the early 2000s, and the pocket of films in, like, the mid-2010s, and now you have the 2020, like, the 2020s. Ugh, that's such a weird thing to say. And the way he is able to capture cultural moments and cultural attitudes so well, especially he's an older guy, and he captures teenagers really well. It looks like, and I'm so it's incredibly impressive.
What I think the show does incredibly well is what I think he has shown that he does really well with, which is honoring the past, bringing it forward into something new. And so, you know, we had the original trilogy of films, and then we got a little bit of the camp satire of Bride and Seed. We went back to kind of gothic. We went to kind of the 70s with like psycho thrillers of the 70s that were really big. And now we're into television, and we have queer representation, like
out the
fantastic
ass.
Yes, fantastic.
Not to like
we
gross,
have
but yeah.
I wasn't even thinking that until you said that.
I'm a gremlin. Wow. Subscribe to our Patreon and see the facial expressions and body motions I did, because the sound is funny, but the whole package is even funnier. So if you're a patron, you can see that. So this is my plug for our Patreon. Anyway, let's talk about Chucky the television series.
But what I like is that you could look at this as you can go into this without knowing any of the past stuff. Now, eventually it's going to get a little bit more complicated as they start to introduce more.
Yeah.
But I like that this feels like a new chapter in terms of we have Chucky back looking like a regular Chucky doll. We have like a kid picking him up. We're like kind of going through, when you start to think about it, I mean, these first two episodes, we've sort of hit some plot points of the first two Chucky movies. You know, we have the kid having to deal with family trauma. Dad's now gone. In this, he's dead. In the first movie, you know, Andy's mom is just no longer in the picture for some reason. But then he goes to a foster family. Now we have this kid going to his uncle's family and living with there. And we're kind of progressing similar storyline, but here we have a kid that is absolutely queer. We're following that. There is some great music, needle drops in here. So there's this moment where his father, played by Devon Sawa, who plays multiple characters in this, is destroying his weird-ass sculpture. And we get Madeline Duke's How Villains Are Made playing while
so good.
We're seeing that. We're seeing Jake's Rage. We're seeing Chucky. We're seeing all of this kind of go together. And it's just this fantastic moment that television, especially teen television, can do really well when they use a lot of up-and-coming musicians and in music needlepoint drops. And I think it's so good in this.
I agree. I think it uses music really well. And I think it's also, it treats kids like they're smart. This isn't trying to be like CW stuff that is like it's like exaggerating. Like, there is exaggeration, obviously. It's a TV show, but I think it treats kids and talks about cruelty of children really well. Like, we're gonna talk about that bitch Lexi. I think it's really real about the cruelty of kids, not just like in an exaggerated bullying sense, but like in a very real like ways that kids are treated. I think. I mean, it's been a while. But I think, like, there is a lot of giving kids a lot more credit than they're often given, and especially in television, for younger kid television, because these kids aren't high schoolers. They're middle schoolers. Like, they are young. Like, we're not trying to have, like, 25-year-olds playing 18-year-olds or, like, 16-year-olds. Like, these are kids playing middle schoolers. So there is, and again, like, that adds more to a sense of danger, but also, again, shows that, like, hey, kids are cruel, like, not even just in high school. Like, the cruelty starts early. And I think that that's also really important to kind of show that you're treating this. Obviously, it's Chucky, but putting it, like, giving a serious tone to it. And I think, again, that's why I love Chucky, like, Child's Play, so it can be funny, but it takes this, it prioritizes scary and creepy. And again, like, this shit scares me, because Chucky doing shit and you trying to claim you didn't do it and no one listens to you, like, that will always terrify me. And that's why Chucky always gets to me. Like, that whole shtick is just like, that's the guaranteed way to make me scared.
Yeah, and I think that it's one thing that the show, I think, is doing really well, at least in these initial episodes. I've seen the first season, but it's always fun to revisit it. But setting up this idea that, like, you know, our main kiddo is a little weird. Jake, he's weird. He makes statues out of doll parts. He is obsessed with true crime. Like, he listens to this podcast about true crime. He's a little kind of weirdo who now is being thrust in the middle of deaths happening around him that you can't really say that Chucky did it, right? And so all of a sudden it's like he becomes potentially a suspect in this. And I think we're starting to see that in these initial episodes where it's really hard. It is terrifying. It's really hard when there's something that no one is listening to you talk about and no one believes you. And I think that's what this initial thing is doing incredibly well. It's also very vicious. Like, I was surprised that the father is killed in the very first episode and he's now orphaned. Like he's orphaned.
He's orphaned immediately. And I think what also, and this is kind of hitting me in this, like, solidifying it, is, like, a lot of haunted doll movies, the dolls don't really talk. They don't seem to display, like, a ton of intelligence. Because it's, like, it's, you know. Chucky's smart. Chucky's observing and turning people, like, weaponizing people, like, their weaknesses, like, reading through their phones. Like, Chucky is a fucker. Like, I love him, but he is such an asshole. Like, he's so smart, and that's what's so scary about him, too. Like, there's a scene where it's painted as, like, a ventriloquist act at a talent show, but it's just Chucky reading everyone.
Reading everyone for filth.
For filth. Like, Lexi smells her own farts and, like, wonders why they smell good, and, like, all these, like, just reading everyone, and it's so good. And again, like, this show just jumps right into it, so I'm really excited to see where it goes, because, like, we just have Chucky, like, first second episode, like, talking to people, and like at one point he goes trick-or-treating with a Hello Kitty mask and gives a woman an apple with like a razor blade in it. And like, and I'm excited because I think it's the end of episode 2, we're getting a POV shot from a young Charles Lee Ray. And so I'm very excited to see where this goes in building a backstory for a young Charles Lee Ray before he was a serial killer. Because we get some allusions to some bad shit happening to him as a kid and him being a weird kid. So I'm very excited to see where this goes.
My one complaint about the series is that it's trying to make Lexi redeemable, and I don't think she's redeemable.
She is such an evil asshole. And, like, I mean that... She's a middle school student, so I know that sounds mean. But the actress who plays her, good for her, because she made me want to punch her in the face. Like, Lexi is such a little snot. Like, the meanest, most entitled character you can think of. Like, I've known people similar to this. She's like like a little bit exaggerated in her cruelty. Like at a Halloween party, she dresses up as Jake's dad getting electrocuted, and like makes a whole scene at a Halloween party.
Starts a GoFundMe
because he's poor, and threatens her teacher like, you're just like trying to keep me from doing like a noble cause, and if you try to take any action, I'll sue you. My mom goes to Pilates with this teacher, blah blah blah. And I'm like, you are like, I don't know, she just sucks. I don't want to feel bad for her.
That teacher is queen. When she's like, Oliver, mind your fucking business, I was like, queen shit in class, just telling her student to fuck off.
I was waiting for her and Chucky to have a bonding moment because they have the same color hair. I was like, are we going to have like redheads becoming friends or something? Yeah. I'm really digging it so far. I love how gay it is. We already had the genderqueer kid conversation. Like Chucky being like, I'm a serial killer and I love my kid no matter what. Like compared to Jake's homophobic dad who like beats the shit out of him for being gay. And Chucky's like, yeah, of course I accept my kid. And it's just like, damn it. Like, Chucky, I love how they characterize Chucky. It's just so funny. It's just incredible. I'm like, you really do a good job making this fucking horrible villain have some, like, weirdly redeeming, but not fully redeeming qualities. And I appreciate that.
Seriously.
So I'm excited to continue.
Me too.
I really want to binge watch it now, so we'll see what happens.
That's the problem.
I'm trying to not, because I want to be able to like only remember those 2 episodes. Because I know if I watch them all, I'm not going to be able to tell you which one was which. Mm-hmm. So, I'm gonna have restraint, but I really like it. So,
and listeners, you can follow along with us. It is now. I believe the first season is on Peacock. That's where I'm watching it. As of Thursday, it's all as of this episode dropping, it's also on Shudder, the very first season.
Oh, that's right. So, I forgot it was on Shudder.
So you can follow along with us. We're going to watch 2 episodes a week. So next week, we're going to talk about episodes 3 and 4. If you want to catch up to us and follow along with us as we celebrate Don Mancini's fantastic TV show that's better than it has any right to be.
You're fucking telling me. Wow.
Yeah, but who are we talking to on Monday, Mary Beth?
We are talking with Kyle Edward Ball, the director of the viral horror film Skinamarink. Everybody, get excited.
Skinamarink-y dinky dink, Skinamarink-y doo.
Shameless plug, if you are in the DC area and want to see Skinamarink, come see it tonight, Friday the 13th, at the Alamo Drafthouse in DC on Bryant Street at 9:30 p.m. I'm hosting a screening and doing a little intro. Seats are almost sold out, so buy your tickets now and come hang. But we are talking about, it's a little bit different of an episode. It's a smorgasbord of Scarred for Life, including the Peter Cherkowski short film Outer Space, which is incredible. And if you want to watch Outer Space before the episode, it's 10 minutes long, and it's just a quick Google search. And if not, then we'll put it in the show notes of their episode on Monday.
Yeah. We also brought with them, because, so this is the problem that we're going to run into, I think, in specific points, is that we are now 100 and... How many episodes deep? How many episodes do we have? This will be our 168th episode. And there's only a certain number of movies. So, like, I'm afraid we're going to run into cases where they're not going to have a movie. And so this time they didn't really have a movie that we hadn't covered. And so we covered The Fly a little bit of The Exorcist, and then we spent most of the time talking about outer space. So it's a little bit different. But we appreciate feedback in terms of how we're doing it, because we're sort of still figuring out this new world that we might be running into a little bit more often.
Yes. So let us know. And you know what? You can let us know and give us that feedback, or you can let us know about the things that we watched this week by sending us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or talk to us on Twitter. I'm at MB McAndrews.
Just teed that one up for you. I'm at
That was
Gaily
incredible.
Dreadful.
I was so proud of that that was incredible. Top 10
Perfect segue.
transitions.
Golf clap.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And did you know that if you're listening to this on the 13th, the following day is my birthday? So why don't you give us a rating, a review, follow us, join our Patreon. We have content. We dropped an episode on the orphanage this month.
Have content.
And you'll be supporting wonderful people like us. That's my birthday, goddammit.
Yeah, it's his fucking birthday. Support him, motherfuckers. Anyway, thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay safe out there. But most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.